Strong and weak entity. A strong a strong entity is an entity that can exist independently and has a unique identifier, also known as a primary key. A primary key is a unique attribute that can be used to identify each instance of entity. For example, in a database of the student ID would be a primary key of the student entity. Weak entity. A weak entity is an entity that cannot exist independently and depend on another entity, called a strong entity, for its existence. A weak entity does not have a unique identifier of its own, and it is an identifier by its relationship to the strong entity. For example, a database of the student, the course entity is a weak entity because it cannot exist independently without a student. A course must be associated with a student in order to exist. Here the example of the strong and weak entity. First is the existence. In a strong entity can be exist independently. In other hand, weak entity cannot exist independently. Second is identifier. In strong entity has a unique identifier, but in weak entity does not have a unique identifier. And third feature is representation. In strong entity representing by a table. In weak entity representing by a table that is linked to the table of the strong entity